Have you ever heard of a man who planted flowers he could never see? In a quiet town between rolling hills and winding rivers lived an old man named Yusuf. He was blind, but remember this, sometimes those who cannot see can see more than the rest of us. Every morning at dawn, Yusuf stepped outside with a cane in one hand and a watering can in the other. He traced the path with his fingers, felt the edges of his fence, and began caring for his flowers. At first, the neighbors whispered, "Why is he planting flowers he cannot even see? What's the point of watering roses when you'll never behold their beauty? Poor old man. His effort is wasted." Some even laughed at the irony of a blind man tending a flower garden. But Yusuf remained silent, never offering explanations. His only companions were the gentle sound of trickling water, the fragrance of moist soil, and the songs of birds that fluttered around his home. As months passed, the garden transformed. Tiny buds appeared, then blossoms. And soon Yusuf's cottage was surrounded by a spectacle of nature. Roses climbed the fences, marigolds swayed in the breeze, daisies dotted the ground like little stars, and jasmine filled the air with sweet fragrance. It was no ordinary garden. It was an explosion of life, a sanctuary of colors and scents. Children who once hurried past his home now stopped to chase butterflies. Passers-by paused to admire the enchanting scenery. Travelers slowed their steps, inhaling the perfume that drifted from Yusuf's flowers. Even the most hurried businessman couldn't help but smile when the fragrance reached him. The neighborhood began to change. People started planting flowers in their own yards, inspired by the blind man's dedication. The once dull and gray street turned vibrant and alive. Conversations grew warmer. Neighbors who had rarely spoken to each other began exchanging seeds and gardening tips, all because one blind man had watered his flowers faithfully. One afternoon, a curious young boy named Sami approached Yusuf. "Uncle," he asked softly, "why do you care so much for flowers when you cannot see them?" Yusuf chuckled, his voice warm like the sun. "My dear child, though I cannot see the flowers, I can smell their fragrance. I can feel the softness of their petals. But more importantly," he paused, turning his face toward the boy, "I grow them for others. The beauty may not reach my eyes, but it reaches your eyes, your heart, and the hearts of all who pass by." Sami tilted his head, surprised. "So, you planted this garden not for yourself, but for everyone else?" "Yes," Yusuf said gently. "True beauty is not in keeping joy for yourself, but in sharing it. The world is already full of walls and shadows. If I can bring a little light, a little fragrance, even if I cannot see it, then my life has not been wasted." The boy ran home and repeated those words to his parents. Soon, the whole neighborhood knew why the blind man had built his garden, and from that day on, people no longer pitied him, they respected him. Years passed, and Yusuf grew older and weaker. His steps slowed, his hands trembled, and the cane became heavier. One winter morning, the neighbors noticed that his cottage door remained closed. Yusuf had quietly passed away in his sleep, leaving behind his small home and his great garden. For a while, the villagers worried that the flowers would wither without his care. But something remarkable happened. Every neighbor, young and old, began to water the plants. Children carried buckets of water, women trimmed the bushes, and men cleared weeds. Together, they nurtured the garden, not for themselves alone, but in memory of the man who had shown them unseen kindness. And the garden never died. It blossomed even brighter, becoming a landmark in the town. Travelers began to call it the blind man's flower garden. Songs were written about it, and its fragrance became a symbol of love, kindness, and selflessness. But the true legacy was not the garden. It was the lesson Yusuf left behind. That sometimes the most beautiful things we do in life are not for ourselves, but for others. The blind man could not see the flowers, yet he planted seeds of hope. He could not admire the colors, yet he painted the neighborhood with beauty. He could not watch people smile, yet he gave them reasons to smile. His blindness became a light for others, proving that kindness needs no eyes, only a heart. Lesson: plant your seeds, whether they are seeds of love, hope, encouragement, or compassion. You may never see them bloom, but someone, somewhere, will find comfort in their fragrance.